All right, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody had a good Christmas. I had a few people reach out interested in, like, hey, what should I know before my first class, right? We got these new classes starting next week. Really excited to bring Jiu Jitsu to the tribe. It's, been a passion of mine that I didn't discover until I was, in my 30s and, absolutely love it now, right? So really happy to be able to share that with the tribe and get this program up and going as well. So, with that said, everybody should have received a welcome email by now. So some of the information that I'm going to talk about, was covered in that as well. But you will, probably benefit from me sort of talking through it. If you've got new questions, just please ask. I'm going to answer as many of them as I can today. And then if there are more out there, I can do another video. I can follow up individually, whatever needed. But I want you to feel comfortable coming into your first class, right? So with that said, it should have that welcome email. It's going to have all the instructions for, accessing the app and the member portal for booking classes and that kind of thing. It's going to look like a lot. I promise it's easy once you get into it. It's just like, anything else, just takes a little bit of time to sort of get things set up. But the Gym Desk app is what you'll use to book into classes. Please do that and go ahead and do it now if you can. That way, if you have any issues, you can just reach out to us. We can help troubleshoot it and get you squared away, rather than waiting till sort of the last minute. And then if you run into any issues, obviously I still want you to just come to class and we'll sort it out. But obviously want to try and eliminate any surprises that we can, since we're getting this up and going, for the first time. So yeah, that's available now. So I think the first question that I want to sort of answer is, we've got a few different flavors out there of sort of jiu-jitsu and self-defense, and how are they similar, how are they different, what to expect with each of those classes, right? And so the self-defense classes are, self-defense. It's really going to still be heavily oriented towards, jiu-jitsu, but it's going to be dealing with the potential of a striking opponent, right? It's going to be dealing with, situations where somebody's trying to hurt you, not just jiu-jitsu for the game and the sport that is jiu-jitsu, right? So we're going to talk about a lot more kind of avoidance of those types of situations. We're going to look at ways to escape, if you're in a bad situation, bad position, looking how to reverse positions if you're on bottom to come back on top, be able to control an opponent. For the kids in those classes, I'm not going to teach any sort of submissions at all, right? We'll reserve that for jiu-jitsu. Now, for the adults, I will include some of that stuff. In the case of self-defense, I'm also going to try and gear that a bit more towards the audience, right? And so if there are a number of women, for example, that are interested in those classes, then I'll include additional techniques that include things like hair grabs, things of that nature that oftentimes are a bit more specific to women that tend to have longer hair, right? Not to say that the other can't be true, but on average, that is generally how it is. And so that's going to be very much self-defense oriented. It's going to be very much like fundamental jiu-jitsu, the potential for a striking opponent, and really just avoiding or getting out of bad situations, right? The jiu-jitsu classes, there certainly are still going to be self-defense elements in it, and so I find those things to be beneficial really in both regards. But we're looking at jiu-jitsu now as a bit of a game. And somebody that is good at jiu-jitsu generally is going to have a much easier time still with self-defense. Now, with jiu-jitsu, there are going to be techniques where you're not worried about somebody punching you in the face, right? There's not a striking component to it in normal sort of competitive jiu-jitsu, right? So there are techniques that you can do in those scenarios that are safe because that striking threat is not there, right? So you can think of that as a bit more of a game, if you will, a sport, versus the self-defense is really going to be focused on those fundamental techniques that are high percentage, simple, and work against striking opponents, right? So there's definitely overlap. Excuse me. The other difference is, the self-defense class, it won't have sort of a, the traditional, jiu-jitsu uniform, which is called a gi. So there won't be really a uniform requirement for that. We may eventually try to get everybody to wear like a tribe t-shirt, just because that kind of thing helps us with social media and posting as well. But the jiu-jitsu classes will have a uniform requirement. It's sort of part of the game, if you will. And then the parents and kids jiu-jitsu is really going to still be like those fundamentals, but you can think of this as just a super like playful introduction to jiu-jitsu. So this is good for younger kids. Older will benefit as well, particularly if they are new to jiu-jitsu. But it's a playful introduction. It's an opportunity to sort of connect with your kids, turn sort of wrestling time into something productive, and a good way to sort of prepare them for these other classes. And so, if you're somebody that is maybe not sure if they're interested in going all in on jiu-jitsu, that might be a good place to start, right? If you're, a parent that's sort of interested, it's a fun way for you to bond with your kid, learn a little bit about it, and really just trying to create that positive experience that jiu-jitsu is fun. It should be fun. We want it to be fun, and it's an opportunity to sort of, approach it in that way. So what should you wear to these different classes? I touched on this a little bit already, but for the self-defense class, really, kind of street clothes, but what I mean is athletic clothes. So what you want to wear really is going to be like compression shorts or pants with like shorts over top of those, and then either a compression top or like some sort of an athletic shirt. And what I mean by that would be something that's like moisture wicking, right? You do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, you want to like minimize, skin where, it's exposed. If there's any cuts and scratches and that type of thing, you don't want to get that on the mat, right? Potential to get infections or to get other people sick. And, we'll talk more about that in sort of a, later video, but, it's that, it helps to keep sweat away from your body. Those types of fabrics tend to be a bit more forgiving, whereas like cotton's going to stretch out and different things like that, right? So generally that's the kind of clothing that we want to see folks in for the self-defense classes. For the jiu-jitsu class, it's really kind of the same thing, except you're then going to have the uniform over top of it, right? I meant to bring one in here to sort of hold up and show, but I guess I'll have to do that in another video now. But it's going to have a top, pants, and then your belt obviously will sort of go with it, and then everything I just described for the self-defense will be what you wear underneath of it. And then for any of the self-defense, parent and kid jiu-jitsu, or the jiu-jitsu classes, you want to wear sandals or Crocs, slides, I guess is what a lot of folks like. But something you can slip on and off easily, because there will be no shoes on the mats, again, because we want to keep the mats clean, keep everybody sort of safe and healthy. But as soon as you go to step off the mats, you need to have your shoes on, not be walking around barefoot and in the facility, right? And again, that's for sort of your safety, and it would be counterproductive to take your clean feet, walk on a dirty floor, and then get back on the mats, right? So you want to have those shoes that are going to be easy to slip on. So generally, like Crocs or sandals are good choices there. So a little bit more on the uniform. We are having, for the gis, we are having custom uniforms made, and so that process is underway right now. I actually expect probably in the next week to get sort of a sample image of one of those. I'll get the opportunity to sort of approve it, and then they'll start the production process. So probably by the end of January, early February, we'll have those in. But what we're going to start with are basically the same uniforms without the custom, patches and branding for Wild Tribe. And so I've already purchased, those. Obviously, I may have to get some additional ones depending on new people that sign up over the course of the next month or whatever, but I can get those that are not customized in about 3 days. So if I don't have the size that somebody needs, can probably have it before class the following week in most cases. So we'll start with that. What you'll do is you'll pay a $50 deposit on that uniform, okay? And so when the new ones come in, you'll give me back the sort of loaner, if you will, and then we'll apply that $50 towards the cost of the new one. Shouldn't be a whole lot more than that anyway. So it'll just about cover the cost of it. Again, have to get all the final numbers for that. But anybody, if you're listening to this video before the new year starts, then you will definitely be getting that uniform at cost, right? As we get into folks that are adding and get memberships and fall outside of that sort of founding member, they'll have a expense for that. But for our founding members, the uniform is being sold at you at cost. I'm not making any money on it. Not looking to lose a bunch of money, obviously, but that's how we're going to handle that. So yeah, once the new ones come in, you'll just turn in the old one. I'll still have those available. So if anybody comes in to do a trial class or visits, that type of thing, those uniforms will be used for that. And then we'll transition, everybody into the sort of custom ones as I'm able to get those in. So that's how that'll work. Initially, I'm not doing rash guards. There's a larger sort of minimum order with the vendor that we're working with on those, and so want to get sort of the foundation in place, and then we'll take up an order and get that process started after we've got a good group of initial members sort of in place. So I think that covers everything on the uniform. The last thing I guess I would just add would be for the first class, make sure you come a little bit early, 15-20 minutes ideally. That way we can get you in your uniform. So you're going to have this silly thing and you're going to be like, well, how do I tie this belt? And this is, it's all kind of weird at first. I felt the same way. And, now I've been doing it for, over 5 years at this point, I guess. And, I don't really think about it anymore. So, bear with it. It's not that bad, I promise. But yeah, do come a little bit early so we can make sure that we get you in your uniform, show you how to tie your belt, and then be able to start class on time and get sort of a full class in. So next, what should you expect with your classes? In general, a class is going to consist of a warm-up, for the kids. That'll probably be like a consistent, regular warm-up, just because I think that creates an opportunity for them to sort of thrive more in, a routine, and it gives them the opportunity to, as they learn and become familiar with it, they can lead the warm up. It's a good opportunity to sort of develop confidence, speaking in front of others and that kind of thing. So it's a good thing. For the adults, we'll probably do more of a custom warm up that will include drills that are similar to the type of work we're going to be doing for the day, right? So it'll be more specific, a little bit more variety there. In the case of a self-defense class, there'll be a self-defense topic or scenario that we sort of talk through. For the kids, that's going to consist of things related to bullying most of the time. For the adults, it might be, situational awareness. It might be, things like planning ahead, where am I going to park, things of that nature. Then we'll roll into sort of the technique and then the instruction portion of the class. And so there'll be, a block of instruction on a technique. Generally, we'll cover 2 to 3 of those throughout the course of the class, but you'll get some instruction. It'll just be a few minutes. And then you'll get the opportunity to do what we call drilling with your training partner. And that's where I'll be floating around, helping you sort of work out the details, troubleshoot it a little bit so that you figure out how to put this thing to use, right? And we'll repeat that process, like I say, for 2 to 3 techniques. And then at the end of class, what we will generally end with is what we would refer to as like specific training, or it's kind of like positional sparring. So I will set some constraints, right? This person's going to start on top side control. This person's going to be on the bottom. If you're on the bottom, your goal is to recover your guard or reverse the position. If you're on top, your job is to progress to mount. That might be, an example. And so that is the game, right? You've got one person taking sort of the offensive role, or in the case of a self-defense scenario, the role of the bully. And you have one person that's playing sort of the defensive role. And that's your opportunity to begin to practice these techniques under sort of controlled conditions, with a little bit more resistance, right? And so when we first get started, nobody, unless you've trained before, you're not going to have a frame of reference of what can I do from the different positions and how do I get there. And so The first few classes, what I will do is I will try to structure it within a single class where I teach you both the offensive and the defensive, so that at the end of class you at least have one thing that you can try to do. And then what happens is, over the course of weeks and months and years, you accumulate, this body of, techniques and skills that you're able to then work through under these scenarios. And so, we'll add to that toolkit as we go. But just be patient with it, right? Next question that I've sort of received is, well, how are promotions going to work? If I've trained before, do I have to start over? The answer is no, you're not going to start over. Whatever belt you've got, you have earned from another instructor. I'm going to respect that, right? I'm not taking it away from you or start you back at the beginning. If you know the promotion date or anything like that, you can let me know. I can put that in our system to sort of keep track of that as well. I'm a purple belt, so I cannot promote anybody above, my rank, which generally, it's taken me 5 years to get here, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to continue to train, with my coach and progress, and so, let's just have somebody join that has extensive experience, won't be a problem in terms of, those promotions. That said, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to try and stay in sync with my coach on sort of that belt promotion criteria specifically. I help coach there, and I'm pretty familiar with the process and his views on that. But out of sort of respect for him and the art, I want to sort of be consistent with that, right? I'm representing him as one of his students, and so I want to be consistent with that. But in general, what I'd say that I will be looking for is, are you training consistently? And that doesn't mean like, hey, you missed a class, you're never getting promoted, but it means if you disappear regularly for weeks on time, or weeks on end, I should say, that's it's hard to progress that way versus somebody that's training, twice a week or more, every single week, right? So some measure of consistency, right? If you're inconsistent, it's going to take longer. If you're more consistent, you're going to progress at a pretty good pace. Are you a good training partner? Quite frankly, that one to me is really an important one. I have been fortunate in the places that I've trained to have, had good culture where, my training partners have generally been invested in my progress as well as their own. They've been invested in my safety, and I have every intention of building that type of culture with Wild Tribe, right? And so, there's accidents certainly can happen, but it should never be because of some sort of an unsafe action or somebody's going too hard, or there's like this big mismatch in skill level and the person that's more skilled just uses that to just dominate the other student. Like I have no interest in tolerating that type of behavior. What sort of comes with jiu-jitsu is this responsibility that you share that knowledge and you help develop those around you, and quite frankly, that's how you build better training partners that make you better as well. So that's the kind of culture that we're going to create. So are you training consistently? Are you being a good training partner? And then the third is obviously, are you progressing? And there's an individual component to that. If you're some super stud athlete, then the expectation for you is going to be, obviously different than somebody that is, maybe less naturally coordinated, that, they're just in it for sort of self-defense. They're not, looking to be able to submit other people. They just want to not be submitted, And so everybody's going to have sort of different goals and ambitions. And so that progress component, yes, there are certain like fundamental techniques and principles and ideas that everybody needs to sort of learn and be able to apply. But then there is an individual component based on your ability level and athleticism, strength, size, all that sort of goes into it. Now, what I will say is good jiu-jitsu does give the smaller, weaker opponent a much better chance against a larger, stronger opponent that is untrained, right? Like that's the whole premise behind jiu-jitsu, is it's a leverage-based system. And so, I don't want to like make it sound like somebody that's smaller or weaker is being let off the hook, because that's certainly not the case. but I also will say that strength is not insignificant, particularly if they have any sort of technique that goes with that. So those are really the three buckets, though. Are you training consistently? Are you sort of a good training partner? And are you sort of exhibiting progress that you're learning and picking things up and getting better? Sort of coming to the end of this now, so thanks for bearing with me. There's a lot more that I want to share that we haven't covered, so we just say, like, be on the lookout for some additional videos. My plan is to eventually get some of this stuff in the Tribe app, so that you can sort of follow along with your training. So you could use it as a read ahead before class. You'll be able to use it after class to kind of go back and look at some of the details in the technique, and use it, as a study resource, right? So be looking for that to be added. It'll take some time for me to get that up and running, but that is a resource that I plan to make available to everybody. In the near term, though, we'll probably do some additional videos on just sort of an intro to, like, what is Jiu Jitsu, a little bit of the history, explaining that it's a grappling martial arts, things like that. Some folks then may be like, what's grappling mean? And, so I want to answer some of those questions. I want to cover some things related to, like, safety and hygiene. I think those are super important, to kind of keeping everybody safe and creating a good environment to train in. There's sort of some background terminology and language that gets used in Jiu Jitsu that I want to share. Things like frames and posts and, things of that nature. Closing the distance, some of these types of concepts that are going to, come up again and again and again. And so if you have that basic knowledge, it's going to help you, learn. I want to do some content related to sort of the main positions that you'll see. So, like guard and mount and side control and back, and then there are variations of those, and north-south and leg entanglements, and all this probably sounds like gibberish, and that's okay. So I want to put together something that sort of explains what some of that looks like. And then probably the first lesson for everybody is going to be like, hey, how do I tie my belt? That's a pretty good place to start. It seems kind of confusing at first, but it's like anything. You get some reps in, and it'll be easy. I will say, back to sort of the belt promotion criteria, that is something that I especially will be looking for in kids to sort of progress to that next, that first, new belt level is, are you able to tie your own belt, or are you still running looking for an adult to do it, right? Because that's something that shows, like, are you practicing outside of class and that kind of thing as well, right? So, so I think that's mostly it. And then I'll just end with, what I think is sort of the best advice that you can give somebody related to starting Jiu Jitsu, and that's really, just pace yourself. Learning Jiu Jitsu is definitely much more a marathon than it is a sprint. And so have fun, keep it playful, don't take it too serious. The way you're going to get better is by being consistent, and getting lots of time on the mat. And if you're expecting to be great at this right out the gate, you're probably going to get frustrated. Those are the folks that I think don't stick with it. Then they don't learn, they don't progress, and I don't think anybody wins from that. So just keep it playful, have fun, and then you'll be surprised after months go by and somebody new comes in. You'll be thinking, like, am I learning anything? Well, you are, but everybody else is learning stuff too, right? But when that brand new person comes in and you've been training for 6 months, that's when you'll really be able to tell how much you've learned, because they'll be like, you started day one. They won't know anything, and you'll find that all those techniques that you've been practicing now all of a sudden work, because you're putting them up against somebody that is that is untrained. They don't know the techniques and the tricks, and they don't have the the skill set that you will have developed. So keep that sort of perspective, keep it light, keep it playful, have fun, and I think that you will find that Jiu Jitsu is an amazing thing. I would argue, and I've heard it stated this way before, but it's a real life superpower, like, once you learn it. And so I'm excited to be able to share that with you. I appreciate you taking this journey, with me. And, if you've got friends that, think might be interested, please tell them to come do a class with us, right? The best way to sort of grow a community of, grow a tribe of like-minded individuals is, people that are like you, your friends, your family, and so share the word, and let's have fun with this. So hope this helps. If you got other questions, please let me know. Look forward to seeing you on the mats this week. Thanks.